Yeah, so hello everyone. Thank you for being here. I know this is a little bit complicated because this is the end of these 2 days, but thank you. So I will talk about mobile development and what's wrong with mobile development today. Today, with my experience as an engineering manager, discovered that there are a lot of problems about mobile, a lot of fights about mobile. I will talk about it in the next slides, but first off, just for presenting, I'm an engineering manager at Airbus. I have a strong focus in web and mobile development, but today I'm not coding anymore. I like to understand system design, and my responsibility at Airbus is to understand our customer needs. Because whatever the technology is, we have to decide which solution will be better for our customers. Whatever what it is. It could be about mobile or web or anything else. We don't think about the technology, we think about our customer. Sorry. So the first, sorry for that. The main problem that we have at Airbus, and I think it could be the same in other companies, this is something that I experienced before, is about the future. Why? Because every time that we have a project or we have a customer needs, there is a problem about the future because everyone tries to predict how the future will be. But it doesn't matter what the future will be. I don't care if the future technology would be, I don't know, on Fuchsia OS for Google, for example. I don't mind. This is not my preoccupation. The only thing that I want to do as a technologist, as a developer, as a manager, is to find, right now, the best solution for our customers. So, but if we try to wonder what the future will be, I can gather it in 4 points. So, in the next slides, I will try to understand and to see how the future would be. But I will try to show you that it's not easy. So the first topic about the future is organization, because every company are trying to find the best organization, and this is not so easy. The second topic is about devices, and because a lot of people are thinking about, okay, which technology, which operating system is better? Is it iOS or Android? And this is not so simple. And then another question that a lot of developers and a lot of product managers or any kind of people have is to understand which programming languages will be in the future. Should I invest on Go language, for example, or should I invest on native programming languages like Swift or Kotlin? I don't know. But again, this is not the real question that we need to have. And finally, and this is strongly linked with the programming languages, this is about tools. And there are a lot of tools, and it's very complicated to find the better solution because when you made a research on Google, you have a lot of kind of different tools. And that's not so easy to understand. So let's go deeper in the organization. About organizations, there is a common point that is shared by these few companies. There are some French companies and others like Spotify. These companies are trying to apply the same model because they think about the model, one model, is the only thing that could work. This model is about the Spotify model. Maybe you are already aware about the Spotify model. But one thing that they realize with time, with experience, is that the Spotify model can't work. It cannot work. You can try to have this model, but it cannot work because you need to adapt it. But sometimes, and I know a lot of companies, a lot of customers that are trying to just apply the Spotify model, but that's not a solution. So the Spotify model, I won't explain it, but this is just for simplifying. Just imagine if you don't know the Spotify model, you need to have in your company a different team as a startup, mini startup, and every mini startup are very independent. So it's interesting, very interesting, because we try to have a lot of autonomy on company, on the startups. So that sounds good. But one important thing is when you are trying to apply the Spotify model at scale, for example, at Airbus we have 50,000 people, so this is complicated. And they have created, people and a lot of marketers and commercials have created the SAFe framework. The SAFe framework is, yes, Spotify model at scale, and it's not so easy. I don't know what you think about it, but this is the same framework. And me, as an engineering manager and developer, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare because I don't know how to work with that. There are tons of jobs and a ton of processes, and this is a nightmare. But this is like this, that Airbus is trying to work in agile. But we cannot, we don't succeed in working like this. And everybody at Airbus think that agile is like this, agile is this, and they don't trust agile. So finally, the most important thing is, whereas to have the simplicity over the complexity today, with this kind of model, we have complexity over simplicity. And we should keep the simplicity because we need to keep everything simple, simple and stupid. This is a very important point that we forget a lot. So one more thing is, OK, Spotify has presented its framework, its way of working. But you have to know, if you're not already aware about it, Spotify has never succeeded in applying this model. This model is just a dream. And even people that are make this framework said, no, just don't apply it. This is just a vision. And you need to apply and to adapt it to your business and the way of working. So this is really important. And if you want to know how Spotify is working today in a team, Spotify is working as a startup with a very different kind of way of thinking that there is, and their model that they are presented on YouTube. So in few words, why Spotify model don't work? Because there are four problems with this. The first problem, I won't go in detail in every topic, but the only thing that you have to know is, yes, this is not, you don't have to focus on new solutions. There is not one solution for everything, and you have to adapt it. OK, Spotify vision is good, but you have to adapt it about your competency, your team, the autonomy team, the knowledge of your team, and how your team works. And this is very important. You can't apply only one vision. So the solution is pretty simple. Just be agile. Agile is very, for me, this is my vision, but agile is very simple because I think that for being agile, you should be very simple and customer-centric. And you need to put the level at the customer, in the customer. You need to be customer-centric. You need to be people-centric. And a lot of times, we don't apply these simple rules. It doesn't matter if you have tons of frameworks like SAFe or the Spotify model. For me, Agile is very simple and can be summed up like this. And for me, it's very important to keep in mind this. For switching quickly on devices, there is a fight between company. This fight exists between Apple, as you said, and iOS, and Android. There is a fight, and every people think that, OK, which one is better? Is it Android? Is it iOS? No, there's just difference. And you have to understand one thing is, behind iOS and behind Android, there are two companies. These companies are Apple and Google. Apple and Google are very different. Apple is a manufacturer, whereas Google is a service provider. The aim of Apple is to deliver products, whereas the aim of Google is to deliver services. Okay, today there are an incredible ability to deliver product also. But the first aim of Google is to create products. So the company are completely different. Their business are completely different. So I think it's important to have this in mind. Just for giving a quick overview, for saying that, okay, Apple and Google have the incredible possibility to invest. They could invest on hardware, for Apple, for example. They could invest on other kind of things because there are a lot of people, there are a lot of products, and there are an incredible possibility to do. And Google is different, but there are also a lot of people that are working on different kind of language. They are working on PWA, on Flutter, on Language Go, on Dart, on Android. So this is very, very different. But they have this ability, and us, at our level, we are not GAFAM, we are not Google, we are not Facebook, we are not Apple. So it doesn't matter, and I think we cannot compete with GAFAM, especially because we don't have their ability to invest on people, to invest on products. Because Google has incredible strengths to invest, to iterate, to fail also. And that's why I think, that we keep something from this company. Because even if we cannot compare with our budget, or the budget between us and Google, I think we can keep their philosophy. The first thing that I think we could keep is their mentality about fail. I don't know how it was for you, but in France, it's very difficult to accept to fail. Because fail is always seen as a big failure, and everybody is sad when you are failed. But it's very important to understand why they are failures and to put in place some processes for growing fast and put solutions very fast for avoiding failure. And this is very important. Another point is to keeping humility. And an example that I like to give is about Google, because Google doesn't know what will be the future of mobile application. That's why they invest on very different kind of technology, on native, on PWA, on other kind of stuff. So for them, they have the ability to invest, but they keep a certain form of humility. So we try to keep that, to keep in mind this fact, because we need to step back and to analyze how the things work. And the final point, and this is more an agile point, we need to work together. People do know that, yeah, Google engineers and Facebook engineers and Apple engineers are working together for trying to find the best solution about the web, about the mobile. So we are not with them for deciding, but they have the ability to choose, and they work together. So I think the most important thing for us is the collaboration and the communication that we can have together. So I think we should keep that. About programming languages, this is obvious. If I have vision of different kind of technology that can exist for creating mobile apps, this is very large. You can code in very different kind of languages, programming languages. You could have Swift, Kotlin, and every languages that were presented on this slide. But it's a nightmare for developers for choosing which one is the best. And I don't think there is only one choice. Because behind the programming languages, you have to know, and you should know, and you know that you can code application in very different kind of way. It could be native apps, it could be hybrid apps, it could be progressive web apps, it could be no-code apps, and today there is also low-code apps. I want to code, but not so much. I just want to code something and have apps. So this is very complicated, and the whole need as a developer involves. And we have to understand that for better understand what kind of tools are available. yes, there are just quick examples of very different kind of questions that there are on Google. Some people want to learn coding app very quickly, whereas other people would like to create some React Native app for developing apps on the TV. So we can find anything on Google. So for me, I can think that we just need to be focused on Google research. We need to be open-minded. We need to collaborate with people, with other companies for understanding how people work, how developers are working, for just seeing and to perfectly find the right solution. Just a few insights about this. These are insights from Stack Overflow. One thing is, today the world is ruled by JS developer because we have a lot of JS developers. Everybody is loving JS developers, and everybody likes to code in JS. So that's normal. That's normal that a lot of solutions are based on JS, like React Native, for example, and native script. That's perfectly normal. We need to accelerate. It doesn't mean that JS language is better. It just means that we have a lot of people that are coding in JS, and maybe it's an opportunity for mobile application to develop something else, to let other people to go in this world. Because if we have a look on Swift popularity and Kotlin, and also Java, but Java is better, a lot of people are not really popular because they are very specific. Even if Kotlin and Swift are trying to create a lot of way of working differently, not only for native app, but also for servers or websites, today the popularity of these languages is not really well spread. And another interesting figures, I think, is about when you wrote your first line of code. For me, I started to code at about 23. But this is not the majority. The majority of the people have learned to code between, 13 and 18. So what I mean is, it's complicated for people to say, OK, you have learned to code in JS or whatever programming languages in few years ago, some years ago, when you are a kid or a teenager. But it's complicated for this kind of people to evolve, to update their mind, to change their mind about their vision. And I think we need to keep that in mind for understanding that, OK, there are a lot of habits in programming languages. We need to, again, and this is really important for me, I try to step back of the technology, step back on programming languages and tools for, just have a vision of where it is and what possibility I have. So anyway, if you ask me which programming languages to choose, I will say it depends. It depends on what? It depends on you, because only you can know what you do and what you want. So there is not one solution. Again, there is not one solution for answering every question. It could be about the organization, it could be about the devices, it could be about the programming languages. There is not one solution, and this is very important. You have to understand your customer, and you have to understand your ability for knowing what you do. A quick overview about tools. This is just some examples about existing tools that you can use for creating native apps or apps. Even if Xamarin has been cancelled by Microsoft and will be replaced by MyUI in the next few months. But anyway, there are a lot of tools. And that's why it's complicated for a developer to find the perfect solution, to find the solution. When you try to find on Google which tool should I need to use for developing app, it's a nightmare because you don't know. if you have, it depends on your ability in programming, but it could be about, you could find expo.io, React Native, Flutter, and so on, with different kind of knowledge. So that's not really easy. That's not easy. For a company doesn't know what to do because a company is business-centric. Okay, we are developers, and we can step back and we are able to understand. But sometimes, a lot of times, our business are not able to understand that. For example, in one of my previous company, it was a nightmare to understand and to give the opportunity to the company to change their mind about the technology because they were completely focused on their business, and there weren't a tech company. And this is the same for Airbus. Airbus is an industrial company, and for an industrial company, it's really complicated to have a vision on technology, to give a global vision. So, yeah, again, it depends only on you. You have to be centric about you, about what you do, because only you know that there is only you that you can know that you have a budget, you have a business, you have a people, and only you have this knowledge. So don't accept to other people to give you an answer. You won't have an answer for this. If I can give you some golden rules that I'm trying to apply every day in mobile applications, the first thing is, just for summing up. So we can't predict the future, but I try to apply these golden rules in my daily life. The first rule is, okay, to write only one code for coding app is impossible, whatever way it is. You can write your mobile app in React Native. It's not possible that you won't code anything in iOS and Android. You always have to code in iOS and Android or understand how iOS and Android works. That's always the case. And there are a lot of use cases like this. And for example, Airbnb was used a lot React Native, and they have decided to go back and to change their technology to go on native apps because they realized that it was so complicated, too complicated to maintain mobile apps in iOS and Android in React Native. Another point that is important for me is, yes, there is not an easier framework. So if you have no competencies in development, you should consider one programming language, and you should learn this language. If you have ability to code in JS, and you want to code a JS, okay, go. You can start to develop with React Native. I don't mind. But there is not an easiest framework. There is not an easiest tool for starting to code an application. The third point is mobile apps have different kind of constraints. It could be about the screen. It could be about anything else. There are tons of constraints about mobile. So you need to understand that kind of constraint because you will face them if you try to develop an application. And finally, and for me this is very important because in my experience I saw a lot of developers, web developers that try to make some mobile apps as they coded website. Whereas mobile apps and website are completely different because I like to say that mobile apps and mobile devices looks like embedded software. This is very different. The network core are very important. We need to be focused on some points that a lot of web developers are not focused on. So that's why we need to have this kind of realm seeking. Because also in mobile apps, you have some challenge on build time, on run time, and this is completely different than a website. And finally, last but not least, mobile apps require to be constantly updated because every time Apple and Google every day are released a new feature, and you have to be aware about it because maybe the last year, Apple said, okay, as a developer, you need to implement Apple Connect. If you don't do it, you will be banned on the store. And there are a lot of companies that have decided, or they're not aware about it, and they are not released the Apple Connect on their app. So their app was just banned. So that's why it's very important to be constantly up to date with that. OK, right. For finishing my presentation about this, I would like to have another point of view. OK, I won't talk about technique, but I just want to step back and to wonder why we are like this, why we are trying to predict the future, why we are trying to gather in a community. And for me, and this is my opinion, for me, the reason is him. Him is an Homo sapiens. And what is the difference between us, humans, today, and Homo sapiens? There are no difference. And there is something across the ages that occurs, is the evolution, the human evolution. And maybe you know it, you certainly know it, but Homo sapiens has won again the Homo erectus, not because their intelligence or their strength, because Homo erectus was stronger and was brighter, smarter than the Homo sapiens. So our ability to fight and to win against Homo erectus is our sociability. And this is what we called the cognitive revolution. The cognitive revolution is our ability to talk together in the same topic and to talk about the same topic. So there is a very important point about it, is, OK, what it can bring, it brought a lot of things. The cognitive revolution has led us, has provided us the ability to transmit information. Transmit information about the world, about humans, and about spirit. About the world because we were able to understand complex action. We were able to understand how the world works. About humans because we understand how people work, and we are able to understand and to speak together, to speak with other people, to be in certain form on community. And spirit because, as opposite of any other species, we have created something that other species haven't. This is our ability to invent some spirit, yes, some informal things, like brand, like religions, for example. And this led us the ability to gather together. And I think it's very important. So yeah, there is a well-known book that describes this better than me. Maybe you already know about it. And Yuval said that our humans are able to create legal fiction and to gather into legal fiction. For example, we created some informal entity, like brands, for example, like Peugeot, the car company, or anything else. And with this ability, we give the opportunity to people to gather into the same belief. And we believe is the same thing. And something that I strongly believe, is I don't know you, but it doesn't matter if God exists or not. It doesn't matter at all. The most important thing is, OK, people are believing that God exists. That's OK. And for me, the most important is, OK, people can gather together into the same belief, the belief that God exists. And maybe God is not a person. Maybe God is just a vision, a group, a community. Maybe this is just a name for a community. OK, maybe. But for me, this is the most important thing. That proves that we are able to gather together. Just there are two examples, but I will go a little bit fast. But the first example that I would like to give you is an example about Polaroid. Polaroid is a well-known company who have made a second bankruptcy in 2008. But the Polaroid company has reviewed. They reborn for one reason, because some fans didn't accept that the Polaroid company could just be avoided, cancelled. So they have created the Impulsor project, and they have succeeded to make reborn this company. So why this is linked with what I said earlier is Polaroid is a company. This is something that people have created. The company has disappeared. Polaroid has disappeared. There is not legal entities. There are not people who are working for Polaroid. But in some minds of fans, Polaroid still existed. And for them, it was important to preserve that and to try to reborn this kind of company. And there is another example, a French example about Lao Reduce, which is a well-known company. OK, so I say that. So what? If I said that is for understanding and to step back and to say, OK, now we have created community. We have created community about developers. And this is the reason why we are here today at DevBreak, because we are believing in the same thing, in the developer mindset. And we have this ability to create communities for gathering, for sharing, for exchanging. And this is really important. But we don't, and we need to avoid to create a gap between things. We need to avoid to create a gap between iOS, between Android, between different kind of programming languages. It's cool to have its preferences, but we need to step back for this and just think about it. Just for my last slides, I will finish with a Ducky, which is an agile tool. If I sum up why and how to create mobile app, finally, it doesn't matter what the technology is. It doesn't matter what programming language you will use. The most important thing for me could be summed up in 4 things. You need to avoid complexity and drop complexity. Very important. We need to keep simple. We need to keep humility together, as I said. We need to have agility with not too complex frameworks. And we need to have a lot of communication, because communication is the key, and we need to communicate together for having a collective intelligence. So that's why it's important for me to be like this. I try to be like this, and at Airbus, we are working like this for saying, OK, we are able to develop native apps, hybrid apps, or whatever you want. But we are trying to understand what is the customer needs in order to find the better solution. Sometimes it's about native. For example, at Airbus, we have created a 3D configurator. And in this case, we developed native app. But in other case, PWA is sufficient. So it doesn't matter what the technology is. And I don't want to be like this. I don't want to be focused on PWA and don't think about native. And I think it's important to have this kind of vision. So for me, it's finished. So just, yeah, be a craftsman, obviously. And just, so thank you for your attention.